I wonder if you've ever had the opportunity to meet and to spend time with someone who you've looked up to for years, someone who you've idolized and really respected from afar. I had the opportunity recently to do that with a man who I've looked up to for many, many years, well over a decade in fact, a man named John Maxwell. Now you may be familiar with some of John Maxwell's books. He's probably one of the most prolific writers and thinkers in the whole area of leadership and peak performance. And I was speaking at a conference recently where John Maxwell was the other keynote speaker, and I had the chance to spend some time with him backstage in the green room, which was such a thrill. And just chatting to him about what he's learned over the decades of coaching people right across the spectrum, from political leaders to sporting stars to icons in the business world. And he shared something that really stood out. And he said, the simple truth is most people are looking for the momentous thing, the one thing that if they just change this, everything else in their lives will change. But he said it's not the momentous, it's the mundane things that make the biggest difference in the long term to someone's success or their momentum or their effectiveness. And he went on to talk about the importance of routines, daily routines. And he said, you'll never change your life until you change something you do every single day. He said the secret to any person's success is found in that person's daily routines. And after the conversation, I actually went away and thought, well, I wonder what some of the daily routines of successful people are, and started to do some research. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of diversity when you look at people across history and across different areas of society, business and sporting and the arts. The daily routines vary, but the fact that every one of these iconic, famous, successful individuals has daily routines is hard to ignore. In fact, you look at some of the routines of really notable people and there's a lot of interesting lessons we can take from them. Barack Obama, for instance, had the daily routine when he was in the White House. Every time he was in Washington, every day he was in Washington, every night, he had family dinner. He would work up until 5:30 or 6 o'clock, then it was down tools, family time. Then he'd often go back to work till 10 or 11 at night. And as someone who throughout 2 terms of office still managed to maintain good relationships in his marriage and his family, it was that daily routine, that thing that was in his schedule every day, immovable. That was the key. Look at J.K. Rowling, for instance, and she's kept a daily journal, a diary for decades. Long before any of us knew her name, before she was famous or wealthy, every day she'd keep a diary, a journal of what she was learning, character development, plot lines. A lot of the great genius ideas she had came through those daily routines. Mark Zuckerberg is a prolific reader. He set a goal a few years ago to read 2 books every single week, constantly sharpening his mind. One of my favorite daily routines I came across was Stephen King. Stephen King, writer of 54 best-selling books, 200 short stories, one of the most prolific writers of our day. Every day he writes 10 pages. Every day. Whether he's on holidays or at home or at work, every single day, 10 pages of a book. And what's cool about that is you look at Stephen King, he started doing this again long before we knew who he was. One of the key principles I learned from a mentor years ago was that public accolades or public victories are always preceded by private victories. It's the mundane day-to-day stuff people do, those private victories when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. That's when momentum and success is built. The fruit of that, the end result, it's a public victory when everyone applauds and you get the award, but it's the routine along the way. That's where success is actually built. And so I want to give you a couple of questions to look at how to make daily routines stick. Because I bet you've had the chance throughout your life to try and set a routine that made a difference, and perhaps you didn't stick to it, like a New Year's resolution that ended up disappearing from your schedule, and it was a good intention but something you didn't stick with. And so I want to give you 5 questions I often give to clients around how to make daily routines stick. How to make sure the best of intentions translate into great results. And the first question is this: what immediate action can you take? Now, the most important thing if you want to start off with a new routine or a new way of doing things is to shock the system. Do something different immediately. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, because that one thing starts the chain reaction of other changes. Newton's first law of motion, often referred to as the law of inertia, says that objects that are stationary tend to stay stationary. Objects that are moving tend to stay moving and are easier to speed up. And so the hardest thing in the world is to get off go, just to take the first step. So what immediate action can you take to start putting this routine into place? The second question is to ask yourself, what is the cost of action or inaction? Firstly, what's the cost of action? If I stick to this routine, what is the cost going to be? There will be a cost. It's going to mean that you have to do things you probably don't want to do. when you'd rather just bliss out or read a book or just have nothing time watching TV. You may need to get yourself off the lounge and go and run around the block. It's going to be a cost. You have to go against the grain, maybe go against the norm, but also there's a cost of inaction. If you don't stick to this routine, what will you miss out on? The third question to ask is, what roadblocks might there be? What are the things that get in the way of this routine lasting? Now for me, a few years ago, I decided to start going to the gym on a routine basis. Every second day, go to the gym. And I thought back over the times that I tried to do the gym thing in the past and thought, why didn't that stick? And something that kept coming to mind was, I only had 1 or 2 sets of gym clothes. And so if I went to go to the gym and none of the clothes were clean, everything was in the wash, that was a very good reason to go, well, not today, I'll go tomorrow, once there's some clean clothes, for instance. And so I decided when I set this routine of going to the gym every second day, I thought, well, one of the roadblocks is not having enough clothes. So I went to a local store and I bought 5 outfits for the gym. I thought I'm just going to remove that excuse. And it's amazing the difference that made. It was just a simple roadblock, but it was something I anticipated would derail me, would stop this routine from lasting. So I just removed the roadblock. Number 4, what mental scripts may you need to change? See, your beliefs will always drive your behaviours. Before you will act in a certain way, you need to see yourself as someone that acts in that way. And so certainly, again, going back to the gym example, for me to stick to the gym routine, I had to change the belief which said, I'm not a gym person. I'd said that for years. Don't love gyms, not interested in being in that environment, don't like the loud vibe and the sense of narcissism that I often saw in the gym. I had to change that whole mentality and go, okay, I am a gym person, and look for something I enjoyed in it. Because until you can change the mental model, until you can change the script that you tell yourself, your behaviours will not follow. And the 5th and final key is, what rewards can you set in place to celebrate progress? Progress is the key to perseverance. If you don't feel like you're making progress, after you've done this routine for a week, what's the reward going to be? A month, what's the reward going to be? 2 months. Unless you celebrate progress along the way, it's unlikely you'll stay motivated to stick with that routine. So there are 5 keys to making routines stick. Again, we often look for the momentous thing, the thing that's going to change everything, but it's the daily routines, as John Maxwell said. That is where our success really, really lies.